Another year of Virginia athletics about ready to get underway here in this 2015-16 season's upcoming, and we welcome you to another installment of the McCue Report here from beautiful Charlottesville, Virginia, on the grounds of the University of Virginia. Alongside Director of News Content Jeff White, I am Director of Broadcasting and Voice of the Cavaliers, Dave Koehn, as we dive into a whole slew of topics going into this 2015 football season. And, let's start with a quick recap of last year. A number of the faces that Virginia fans grew accustomed to seeing no longer with the team, and most notably on the defensive side of things, where the primary pass rushers, Max Vallis and Eli Harold, no longer at the University of Virginia. A number of other players, all three linebackers gone. So one of the biggest questions going into the season is, where does defensive coordinator John Tenuta get the pass rush, and how will you replace those missing pieces? So those are some of the things that we look at.
Right, and I think first and foremost, he will look to Mike Moore, who started last year, who was inside in passing situations. He will be more of a traditional defensive end this year. This is his fourth year in the program. He needs to have a big year. He's a little bit of a different style than Eli was or Max Vallis, but he's a strong, powerful, experienced player, and he's going to have to produce some sacks from the outside. The other guys, Trent Corney is in his fourth year. People have been waiting for him to kind of translate his incredible athleticism onto the field. This is a great opportunity for him. As you mentioned, there are unknowns at linebacker in particular, and the team got a lot of sacks from Henry Coley last year. So, they got to find a way to replace that pass rush and those sacks.
You continue to look at that linebacking core. Can they learn the assignments? I think that's one of the big things. Can these guys come together and really understand the defense? If you're a middle linebacker, you better know your signs, and you better know how to organize that defense in general.
The proof will be when the games begin, but Micah Kaiser is a very bright young man who, apprenticed under Henry Coley last year. I think the coaches and his teammates have the utmost confidence that Kaiser will step into that middle linebacker role. The other veteran of the group is Zach Bradshaw, who has the one start that the whole group has. He's been here for 2 years. He knows John Tenuta's system as well. Now he's got to go produce.
So let's talk about what has also been an offseason that's been marked as much by the guys that have arrived, and that is the transfer market. I don't want to say a new phenomenon, but certainly an increasingly prominent one in college athletics, and football is certainly no exception to that rule. Virginia brings in 4 transfer players this season. We're talking about some guys that can make differences as well. And the bad news, we just found out of the first scrimmage, one of those 4 will not be available for at least the foreseeable future. And when you look at this team, TJ Thorpe, he was a guy that was a playmaker. A lot of people had a lot of expectations on him, both on special teams and on offense. How big is that loss for this team?
I don't think anyone was having a better training camp than TJ Thorpe was. And as you mentioned, he was going to be starting at wide receiver. He was going to be returning kicks. He might have been really like a 3-phase guy. So, that's a big loss. He's a playmaker. He's a graduate student, so he knows college football. If there's any positive element, it's probably the timing of it, in that it allows the coaching staff to work in other players in those roles. It's not like it happened game week and they're just thrown totally for a loop. But I don't think you can, overstate the impact of that loss, because he was an impact player.
The hope is that you get him back for the second part of the season. In the meantime, some other guys are going to have to step up and fill that void. Another name that's new to this lineup, and we'll look to see him play out, your guy Albert Reed in that backfield for Virginia. Your guy, former Maryland Terrapin, who is now with the Cavaliers, in addition to Taquan Mizell trying to live up to the smoke part of his moniker. And you look at him so far in these spring practices, it really does seem like he has shown flashes, at least, of some of the things that we expected, but we really don't know until the games arrive.
He looked good. He looked good in the scrimmage last night, but it was not totally live. As you know, they were not tackling to the ground. So you don't know if in a game he's going to take that for another 10 yards or he's going to get brought down right then. All reports on him have been positive. He's worked extremely hard. He's concentrating more on running north-south, making one cut and getting upfield. And I don't think anyone really doubts his talent. It's just time for him to produce. And you have Daniel Ham, who's kind of waited his turn as well. You have Albert Reed from Maryland, who did some good things with the Terps. So, it's not as if the job's just going to be handed to Mizell. He's going to have to earn it and then keep it.
So many position battles going on in this camp with a number of starters gone from last season, but one position battle that we have not seen too much of a battle for the starter's position, and that's behind center at quarterback. Matt Johns, we expected him to be the guy with the departure of Grayson Lambert, who transferred out. To this point in this camp, he's looked the part.
Yeah, he has. He's been great. He's got a command of the offense. He's got a command of the team as well, which I think is important. There's more to it than just knowing the playbook. You want to have the confidence of your teammates. He had earned that last year, but with his work in the spring and in the summer, they have even more faith in him. And there's such clarity at that position this summer, and as you know, that has not been the case here. And, I think that makes it easier going forward for him and for the offense, knowing that Matt Johns is the guy. I think everyone feels really good about what Matt Johns is doing and where the offense is headed with him.
When you look at the quarterback position, one of the things you're always looking for is leadership, some of those intangibles, and I think that's the one thing that Matt brings in spades. I had a chance to talk with him earlier this week and talk a little bit about some of the principles that he sees and the needs for this offense when it comes to changing the fortunes of this program and really changing the culture of it. And the things he said when he elaborated on it, you can tell when something is genuine and when it's lip service. You get the sense that he's a guy that really does have a grasp for what it's going to take for this program to get where they need to be. He knows how to lead.
At the UCLA game, when they put Matt in late in the first half, Coach Lennon asked him, "Are you ready?" He said, "Yeah, I've been waiting for this all my athletic life." So, he's a confident guy. I don't think he's cocky, but he's got confidence. His teammates have that confidence in him as well. And he's got, the word that's thrown around with him is moxie, and he definitely has competitive moxie. He knows he has to get better. He didn't turn the ball over a lot last year, which was obviously a positive. He also did not complete a great percentage of his passes. He was right around 55. And, in today's game, I think quarterbacks would much prefer to be around 60 or 65. And I think that's probably a realistic goal for him this season. I think, being the sole number one guy, he'll be more comfortable out there, and he'll be a more accurate passer.
Well, he seems to have all the leadership. We'll see if he's got the tangibles on the field when the season kicks off. So many different pieces that we're watching this fall camp going into the season to see how they fit in this 2015 rendition of Virginia football. All these stories we'll keep an eye on, and we'll also dive into some other ones. But we're about out of time for now. So for Jeff White, I am Dave Koehn, wrapping things up on this installment of the McCue Report. We'll see you next week.